Next item on the agenda will be our announcements by Chuck Barnett, our Assistant City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, ladies and gentlemen. On Saturday, May 24th last month, the City of Fort Worth's CRUD Cruiser was in Haltom City, and believe me, with the program we have, disposal of household hazardous waste, it does make a difference. A total of 29 households participated disposing of the household hazardous waste goods that they had at their residence. Almost 3,000 pounds of paint, pesticides, batteries, motor oil, and antifreeze were collected. Residents can still use the Environmental Collection Center at 6400 Bridge Street, located in Fort Worth, throughout the year. For a list of acceptable items and hours of operations, directions to the center, please call 817-222-7767. Kids aged 5 to 11 and their dads are invited to a Dads and Kids Science Night, which will be held Saturday, June the 28th at the Haltom City Recreation Center. The program costs $1 and will start at 5 p.m., which includes pizza. Registration deadlines is this Wednesday, June the 25th. This event is sponsored by the Haltom City Recreation Center and an after-hours support group called Strong Fathers, Strong Families. To register, please call 817-831-6464. Also, the summer reading program has begun in Haltom City, but there is still time to register. The programs take place at 3 locations within our city: Tuesdays at Pecan Park, Wednesdays and Fridays at the library, and Thursdays at Buffalo Ridge Park. This coming Friday, June the 27th, Taco the Clown will be the special guest at the library, and the fun will begin about 2 p.m. For additional information and the schedule of all upcoming events at the library, please call 817-222-7786. And city offices will be closed Friday, July 4th in observance of our Independence Day. There will be no trash or recycling services on that Friday. Residents whose normal pickup is Friday will have their normal schedule of pickup resumed on the following Tuesday, the next regular pickup day. And celebrate July 4th by attending our Quad Cities Family 4th fireworks. Fireworks begin at 9:30 on Friday, July the 4th. Viewing areas include the Wiley G. Thomas Coliseum parking lot and ATI Career Training Center parking lot. Both are located on Grapevine Highway just east of Carson Street in Haltom City. Concessions will be available, and of course the fireworks and parking are free to the public.
Thank you, Chuck. Appreciate that. Next on the agenda is our consent agenda. The consent agenda is considered to be self-explanatory and will be enacted by the council with one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items. Approval of the consent agenda authorizes the city manager to implement each item in accordance with staff or board recommendations. Ms. Branson?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Okay, that's items 1 through 5.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Mr. Branson, Mr. Branson. Mr. Sutton.
Not quite. Move to, I second that.
Humma. Okay.
Humma.
All right. I don't know whether you just got promoted
Bill,
or
you're getting
unexpected
red.
or what. Yeah. Yeah. All right. It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion on the dais? If not, please register your vote. All right. That is approved unanimously. Mr. Cabano is absent tonight. Next on the agenda is under the regular agenda public hearings is the gas well permit. This is conduct a public hearing in consideration or action regarding a high impact gas well permit issued to Chesapeake Energy Corporation at Lower Birdville and Glen Haven. And Mr. Fain will tell us a little bit about that.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Of course, the city of Haltom City does recognize gas well permits, and as we've discussed before, we look at 2 different types of gas well permits, one being an urban gas well permit, and that type of permit is typically awarded administratively through the staff. A high impact gas well permit is taken to the City Council for your review and your consideration and approval. What's the difference? Well, basically, a high-impact gas well permit is a gas well site that will be located within 600 foot of a dwelling, a religious institution, hospital, school, cemetery, or a public park. And this particular one for your consideration tonight is located within 600 feet of several dwellings. And in particularly, there is 3 dwellings that are located within 300 foot of this particular well site. And Mr. Kevin Strouser with Chesapeake Energy Corporation is here tonight, and he will make a presentation to you, and then the staff is available to answer any questions you may have, as well as Mr. Strouser. So I'll go ahead and let Mr. Strouser come forward and make his presentation. If that's okay.
This is Mr. Strausser is coming up. Just as we talked about in the previous work session, the permit does meet all the requirements of the city's ordinance, with the exception of one, and that was being having dwellings within under 300 feet, between 200 and 300 feet. And there are 3 of them, and we've got waivers from those. So essentially, all the aspects of the ordinance have been met by Chesapeake. Mr. Strausser, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council members. I'll just run through this real quick, and if you have any questions, let me know. And it's just a quick overview of our development plans at this site. First off, it's right off just east of Haltom Road and Lower Birdville on the and just north of 121 there. It's a little closer shot there. And you can see our drill site will actually take up most of that green area right there. As the city manager mentioned, we are a high impact. Our well is within 600 feet of protected use structures. Of the 300 feet structures, within the 300 feet structures, there are 3 structures of which all those have obtained high impact waivers for, stating that they're okay and in support of our permit. On top of all that, we have within the 600 feet setback, we do have 56 structures impacted within the 600 feet. 46 of those, it's not a requirement, but we asked for support waivers from them as well, just to show support. And 46 of those 56 actually signed waivers within the 600 feet. And just one point was, of those 56 landowners, 51 has signed a lease with Chesapeake as well. And we anticipate to begin drilling by July 10th. You can see here a picture of the 600-foot setback. It's actually a 200, a 300, and a 600-foot setback. All the yellow tinted has signed a support waiver. And then in the blue, the reason they didn't sign a support waiver is because we've been trying to contact them for about 6 months, and they either have not contacted us back. We've tried to contact them numerous times. They don't live there, rent houses, whatever it may be, and those people are unavailable. You can see here within the 600 feet of all the properties that are leased with Chesapeake, it's a great percentage of those to be able to develop those minerals within that area. And this is the full RLB. You can see the drill site down in the lower part of the screen. This is our entire RLB development area, which we could drill up to 16 wells at this location. Transportation route, we've gotten quite a few questions about this from the residents as well as you all. We intend on coming off of Highway 121 and exiting on Haltom Road and going north, and then turning east on Lower Birdville Road, and then accessing the property off of Lower Birdville. Since we are so close and in such an urban environment here, we definitely I wanted to go through and show you a few pictures of this, of some of our new technology of what we're using in our urban drilling rigs. These are sound walls. They lower the decibel level by huge numbers. And we also have the walls, and then actually on the rig floor, you can see that we put them over the brake shrouds to lower the decibel level coming off of there. These are our rig engines. We always put the sound walls around them as well. This is actually what causes the most sound. and we mitigate that by putting those on 2 or 3 sides of those. And this is an outside picture of that. And this is just a close-up picture of the walls. And then we also put them over the engines to muffle the sound. Landscaping, required by your ordinance to do some landscaping and mitigate that after we go into our production phase and we're not drilling anymore. Usually we'll, depending on, we try to use trees that are, native to Texas, and try to, we always put irrigation in them, irrigate them for a couple of years to make sure they get rooted in and they're able to survive. If we do have trees that die off or whatever, we'll come back in and replace those. Per the ordinance as well, we put up masonry walls, and this is a site we have out in East Fort Worth with a security gate. You can see it's I can't remember if it's 6 or 8 feet tall, but 8 feet tall. Okay, and it'll be similar to this, and just another picture. And this is what it'll look like from the inside with our battery tanks. And our proposed pipeline route, you can see it comes off of the drill site and goes to the east, and then follows the property all the way down past 121. There's 18 tracks of right-of-way we needed to obtain for this pipeline. As of today, we have 11 of those. There are some city properties which we'll be submitting to the city eventually, but we're well on our way of obtaining most of the right-of-way along this route as well. And if you have any questions, I'll answer those now.
Ms. Reese?
Thank you. The first question I have is you had on that, one of the first few slides, it had at the very bottom, spud deadline of 7/10/09. What does spud mean?
A spud means when we actually begin drilling the well. Right now we do have a lease that will expire on July 10th.
Of 09.
Of 09.
A year from this coming July.
I'm sorry, that is 08.
Okay.
That's an error. Thank you very much for catching that.
And then,
I'm in the wrong year.
Because when I saw the 09, it's like, oh, wait a minute.
Right, we are. It is 08. I apologize.
Okay, and then the other thing, just got a few others, and then I'm, on the masonry walls that y'all are putting in, we all maintain the walls on the outside?
Yes. Yeah, we have,
Unfortunately, that part of town gets a lot of graffiti
Yep.
also, and
And
that's a big concern I have for the homeowners in that area.
we do have that. We run into that a few times in some of the other cities we operate in that have masonry walls, and we get people right out there immediately to take that off. Our operations group is really, it's an urgency. I mean, we want to get it done and cleaned up immediately. So as long as someone reports it to us or our operations people see it, it's taken care of.
Okay, and the other one, and it's probably in our ordinance, how far down are you drilling the pipeline?
We're regulated by the state regulations, and it's we must maintain 4 feet of cover over the pipeline at a minimum.
Were you meaning the actual drill, or are you talking about the pipeline that goes from the well down
The
south
proposed
of one?
pipeline route that they've got on one of the last few,
Yes.
I'm wanting to make sure
Okay.
that how deep that's gonna be. I'm needing, I mean, if he's gonna say 4 feet, I wanna make sure it's 4 feet.
Well, it's the U.S. Department of Transportation regulations are we must maintain 4 feet of cover over the pipe. So we have to be at least 4 feet below the ground, at least.
Okay, and that's per Department of Transportation?
Yeah.
Okay, and then one question in case any of the individuals here would like to know, as I had asked you in pre-council, if we had checked out other routes, possibly up Menace or Carson, and I wanted either you or David to give that feedback so they know we're at least asking, is this the only route we can use or most direct or?
Staff does feel like that's the most direct route. Lower Birdville to Haltom Road, south to 121.
Any other questions?
You got
Okay.
a lit
All
up
right.
board here.
Mr. Clark?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If I understood correctly on one of your second or third or fourth slides on leasing the property, you already have 80% of the leases already signed up? Property owners?
I wouldn't know the exact percentage. I know of the first well, 100% of that unit is leased.
Once you drill the well, you have to have 80% when you send it to the Railroad Commission, right? To start pumping the gas or not?
No, actually, what we have to do is we have to have everyone along that well bore, we have to have contiguous leasehold along that well bore. And so it's not necessarily a percentage, but everybody within the length of that well bore and everyone on 330 feet on each side of that has to be leased.
Are you close to having that now?
Yes, we do.
Once you have completed the well and you've pulled out and you get the blessing from the state, how long before the people will receive their checks for their royalty?
Once we have the well hooked up and it is producing gas, per state law, we have 120 days to start paying royalties.
So it'd be a relatively short time on this one then?
A
year?
I would believe so. I mean, our pipeline, we have obtained the right of way and hopefully be drilling next month, so.
If you can go back to slide 7 that had your whole outline there of the entire leasehold, that one there, that's, from that site, that's where you can get stuff, right?
Right.
I mean, you get the minerals. And when we met last week, you were saying that this well is actually going to be accessing minerals to the south.
Right.
Is that right?
This will be the.
So just this well is only going to be accessing stuff to the south.
To the south.
There would have to be future wells to do anything to the north.
Right, exactly.
Okay. And just to let the public know that are here, this is only for this one well. When they do subsequent wells, they'll have to go through the same process. It's a high impact well. Notices are going to be going out. The council's going to have to hold a public hearing and give them permission to do that
So it'll be
as well. So they can put 16?
It can hold up to 16.
16 wells? I'm not saying there are going to be 16 wells
Right.
here, but it can hold up to that. But it'll take future meetings. But for this particular well, it's accessing minerals to the south.
So we can.
South only.
So we can say on an average what it takes this well to the south, the people to the north will come later at approximately the same amount of time.
Yes. Since
Okay.
once the
Yeah,
pipeline
yeah,
is hooked
yeah.
up from that location,
Okay.
we're
Thanks,
good
sir.
to go.
And as far as it being the south, that is completely Chesapeake's decision. The council, the city's got no dog in that hunt. That's your decision to do that. And then if you put more wells in there, you're going to decide whether to continue going south or you go up to the north.
And to further explain why and how come and all that, I mean, the geologists decide in our land department when we're looking at which way we're going to drill first. We look at the leasehold we have, and at this time we do have like 100% contiguous leasehold for that southern portion at this time. There are a few handful of people that haven't leased with us or whatever the case may be, or leased with another company that we're still working that out, and that's why we chose to go the south first.
Any other questions, Mr. Clark?
No.
Okay, Ms. Branson?
Thank you, Mayor. Back in pre-council, we talked about traffic and streets and road maintenance. And so could we address that out here? Because I believe there was a lot of good information. And David, I don't know if you want to participate in this as well. When it goes from 121 to Haltom Road, Lower Birdville, to the actual drill site, which has 2 residences on each side of the road that goes to the drill site, correct? There will be about how many trucks a day did you initially say that would go on for?
Initially, when we load the rig in, when we're rigging in, we'll have 40 to 50 trucks for 2 days.
For 2 days.
Combined, so it'll be like
about
25 a day.
Okay, and then when you're once you put the Christmas tree on and you're taking the equipment back out, the same thing will happen again.
Well, that's it, when we bring the rig in, and then when we complete drilling and we take the rig out, it'll be the same trucks that come out and get the rig at that time.
Okay, and then while you're fracking this, the trucks will be taking Haltom Road to Lower Birdville down to the well site as well. And you mentioned how many trucks a day would be carrying the water in and out?
Well, we don't carry the water in and out. We'll be bringing in about 30 trucks.
Okay.
Pumpers and sand mixers and that stuff. And once they get on the property, they stay there for a week.
Okay, and they're running 24 hours a day?
No, only during daytime hours.
Only during daytime hours?
And that's Monday through Friday.
And that's,
Okay.
and that's as specified in the ordinance.
Right, well, I just think that the individuals that are impacted need to know what to expect as far as traffic goes, as far as noise goes, the type of equipment that they can see coming down the road, because we had a discussion about what happened on 28th when you all were moving equipment out. Some of it's pretty good size equipment, and it will bring traffic to a halt for 30 to 45 minutes, so plan accordingly.
And they're 65-foot trailers, right? Each one of those trucks will, or those 40 trucks in those 2 days will be 65-foot trailers.
There'll be a
attached to
variation
them.
of
So those
of
are pretty
semis
big
and larger
trailers.
trucks.
And the actual rig, though, is on a really large truck.
Right.
That when you bring it in. It is, looks very, very long when you're looking at it horizontally.
Ms. Branson, can I get your schedule whenever we bring the rig in?
Sure,
and
well,
we'll,
sure, yeah.
I'm
Get
just
all our
kidding.
tea
I'm
times,
kidding.
yeah.
I'm just kidding.
I have your home phone number. I'll let you know. And to let people know, it's when they were bringing them down 28, I didn't realize they were bringing it during the day, so takes about 35 minutes to get from Beach Street to 35. So they move slowly, and they are large, and when they have to take a turn, that has to be taken into consideration. But anyway, I wanted the individuals that lived in those two properties where the road will be going in and out of the well to realize what kind of traffic would be coming in there, as well as the citizens that live on Lower Birdville and Haltom Road, what they can expect to see during that time.
And when we bring the rig in, we'll definitely try to communicate that to the neighborhood. And
That's great.
We get a 72-hour notice as well as the city of when we're bringing the rig in. Sometimes it happens very quickly. And we'll generally go out and put flyers on the doors just to let the neighborhood know we're going to start around 9, and we try to communicate that, and then if need be, we can work together and move around each other.
But, the other one was on a Sunday, so it didn't impact go-to-work traffic. So anyway, I did want everyone to understand the traffic that would be involved
Absolutely.
for a while. Thank you.
So it's, my understanding, it's okay to get in the way if you're going to work, but not if you're teeing off. Is that,
Absolutely.
okay, all right.
You'll be teeing off
Yeah,
another way there.
Kevin, I think we had maybe one or two questions. If you've got some questions, I'm going to go ahead and open up the public hearing here now. And have we got any other, before I do that, got any other questions from the dais up here? Are we done? Okay, I will go ahead and open up the public hearing then. And I saw a couple of hands there. If we haven't answered your questions and you want to ask David Fain or Kevin a question, come on up and talk in the microphone here. Just raise your hand again. I'll recognize you. Come on up, and that way everybody can hear. Jane, come on up. Yeah, we did. Jane, I noticed you've got a sign-up sheet. Do you want to come ask a question, or you okay? You want to, while you're up here, you want to go ahead and take your time, make your whatever. Okay, that's all you want to do with your sign-up? Okay.
There are several
State your name and
I'm
address,
sorry.
Jane.
I am Elizabeth Jane Milligan. I reside at 1924 Eden Avenue in Haltom City. My property is, back of my lot is right there at the RLB drilling site, along with several of the residences from Eden Avenue are with me tonight. My main question is, you say that you've got nearly 100% sign up. Some of us were talking about there a while ago. This second one that's come through, because we are closer than the 600 feet limit that the city has proposed, and I believe a couple or three of us may even be closer than the 300 feet. My home has not signed a release for that well, and I'm sure there are others here that have not. So I'm curious and concerned what residences he has that are actually okay with the drilling site.
When you say sign, you're talking about leasing your minerals?
No, we've signed that.
Okay.
That's been signed, but we got another notice, if you will, regarding, we're going to be really close to your property is basically what it said. Is it okay for us to come on in there and sign and drill? And we never returned the form.
Well, I think we've got a list of properties there.
David, if you can address that.
Can you bring that up and
Do that. And Mayor,
It's in your
what the
packet.
ordinance addresses is that here again, this is a high-impact gas well permit. And what triggers that is that the gas driller wants to drill within 600 feet of dwellings, be it a hospital or a residence, any typical type of structure. But where there's a waiver concern is when there is a structure that is 300 foot or less in distance from the actual drilling site itself. And that's where the waiver kicks in, either through a waiver or through the council approval, which we talked about earlier in a supermajority vote. But in this case, 3 dwellings have been identified within 300 feet, not 600 feet, but 300 feet within the drilling site. And then Chesapeake went out and solicited those particular property owners and received 3 waivers. That was all they were required by ordinance to receive were those 3 waivers.
She's number 8 on our list in the packet.
Does this indication, Kevin, that you do have the waivers, or is this just a list of people that are?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Heather Barcia. I'm with Chesapeake Energy. I apologize, I was running a little bit late this evening. That list that you're looking at is actually the list of owners who are going to benefit off of that well. So we have their minerals leased, and they will be entitled to revenue off of this well.
And we're aware of that, Mr. Mayor, very much
Okay.
aware of that.
Okay. But you're these are properties these properties here are within 600 feet.
I think her question is about the waiver.
Yeah, Mayor, the
There was
question.
a statement that nearly 100%, I think someone suggested even 80% of the leases had been okayed to come on in, that the drill site would actually be closer than, I think we were quoted 300 feet, and I believe that from where that well site appears to be and where we live, the back of our lot, I believe it may be closer than that 300 feet. We may be within 150 to 200 feet.
Yeah, that I don't know. We've got, but we should have some. I think there's some.
Okay, if you
I've seen some where we do have that measurement out there.
look at Exhibit X, Kevin, Heather, David. Exhibit.
I do have one more question before.
Okay, let us.
Exhibit X. She's property 1, 2, 3.
It's
4,
not
5,
the
6.
property, it's the location of a dwelling or a building.
Right. So it's not the property line; it's where the dwelling is.
Correct.
Her
Structure.
property, at least as I understand Exhibit X, is lot number 21, and the end of your lot is just at the 200-foot level.
I don't
of
think we
that.
have it on.
They may.
Yeah.
Oh, back up, right there. 21, right?
21 in between the white and the blue on the left there of the circle. You see where the inner circle is 200 feet. The second ring is 300 feet, and then the largest outer ring is 600 feet.
Okay.
So would the 300-foot ring be touching the structure? Is that what we're seeing
No,
there?
it's touching the property line, not the structure. The ordinance reads 200 feet of the structure, or 300 feet of the structure, but no less than 200 feet of the structure. But
Right, but it appears on the drawing that the 300-foot circle
right to-
touches the structure.
that's assuming the house is in the middle of the lot. Is the house? I'm assuming the house is closer to Eden. Is that right? And you've got a very deep backyard. Okay, so
Okay.
your house is probably outside that 300-foot ring, right? And that's why they didn't solicit you for a waiver for that.
And
That's a
Tom,
roundabout way of answering your question, but
Tom,
and-
can I clarify just
Sure.
so there's no confusion? I mean, the waiver is absolutely required if the structure is within 200 feet.
Yes.
Okay, if it's within 300 feet, then the city council has to waive it, but you cannot waive it without the consent of the property owner if it's within 200 feet. So that's the way your ordinance reads. So what I'm assuming is that Chesapeake has done the calculations, and there are 3 occupied structures within 200 feet, and they have obtained waivers from those persons.
Yes.
If there are others that we're not aware of, we need to learn about those tonight and deal with them.
That's accurate.
Well, I need to clarify, the waivers that I show here, 600-foot waivers, those are, and I probably missed Mark and should have clarified, those are support waivers. And I could have said support
I
letters.
think you said that. Yes.
Did I? Okay. I just want to make sure that what we did, the 46 out of the 56 were not required by the ordinance. but the 3 that were acquired under 200 feet, we obtained.
Okay, and Jane, I think what your question was, you were asking whether or not you had needed a required waiver, or a waiver was required of you, and because you knew that you had not signed such a waiver. But now then, are you satisfied that that's not required of you, or if we got?
I think we are.
If
No.
we got any other?
Says no.
Okay, well, we'll get all the questions answered before we go. I mean, we'll go ahead and.
One more
yeah.
that really doesn't have anything to do with me, Mr. Mayor and council, but the property where they're going to drill does home a horse, a pet from neighbors down the street, and some ducks that live in a pond. How will the drilling affect those animals? What will Chesapeake do with, to, or for the homeowner that owns the animals or the animals themselves?
Well, there they are. Let's ask them.
Okay.
I did just talk to the property owner a few minutes ago about the horse, and ultimately it's up to his discretion what he does with those animals, and Chesapeake doesn't have anything to do with that. It's the property owner that makes that decision. But from what I understand, he is going to move those animals off the property.
Okay, all right. Now earlier, Chris, did you have a question about the recent?
Maybe not. I'm not trying to run this real thin, but I still don't understand the deal about the 300-foot circle. If these drawings, these little boxes, are true representations of the structures on each individual lot, then my drawing appears to have the 300-foot circle touching the structure on the citizen's home that was just up here speaking.
You're talking about Exhibit X?
Exhibit
in our
X, that's
package?
correct.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know that. I don't know what the...
I'm just unclear on it, Mayor, that's all.
Yeah, this pad site exhibit, can you verify that within, that the 300, between the 300 and 200 foot marks, that there are no structures other than the ones that you've obtained waivers?
That is correct, sir. It appears that at this scale, it's hard to tell really, but
Right.
this is done by our surveyor, and that lot 21 is actually 301 foot from the actual corner of the structure.
Okay. So it's a matter of...
It's
That's
very
awful close.
Yeah.
Within a foot.
Is that
Okay.
from the center of the well, or
The wellhead, I believe.
Or the
It's
wellhead?
measured from the wellhead, yes, sir.
The center of the wellhead?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Thank you.
Not the edge of the wellhead.
No, sir.
All right, Jim, was that the only question you had, Jim? All right. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead. What we're gonna do, we've got several people that have signed up. We'll go ahead and let those folks speak or ask questions, whatever they want to do first. And then when we get through this, I've just got a couple more, and then we'll open it up and we'll just, one by one. If you got a question or comment, we'll let you come up. Next is Dan Murphy. Ms. Murphy, come up and just give us your name and address. And
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As mentioned, I'm Dan Murphy. I actually live in Fort Worth, and so I really don't have a dog in the hunt here, except that I own the minerals under one of the warehouses down by 121. So my purpose for being here was to lend some support to the drilling and to maybe reassure some people if there are some concerns, because where I live in Fort Worth, we have had several wells drilled fairly close to me with really minimal disruption. And I'm sure you've all read and heard about the Trinity Trees project over in Fort Worth along the bike trail and all the opposition to Chesapeake's drilling there. And I play golf right across the river from that Trinity Trees project. And quite frankly, if you couldn't see the rig sticking up above the trees, you wouldn't know it was there. They had noise suppression on it, and they've added trees around there, and I don't think you'd find anybody that was complaining about from the use of the bike trail now. there was a lot of opposition beforehand. But they've come in there and they've done an excellent job. The entry to the site is on the back side, and they haven't been any disruption at all. And those of us across the river where we play golf, you have to actually look for the rig and see where it is, because you couldn't even hear it when it was drilling. They've since moved out. So if that's any reassurance to people who live close by here, I think your disruption will be minimal, and the benefit to everybody that has lease and has royalty interest would be fairly significant. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Before I call the next person up, folks back there, we have some seats in here. If you got some seats, would you hold up a 1 or 2 fingers what you got close to you? So you can just, most of them are down here at the front, but you know, you might as well get comfortable. Oh, okay. Well, we'll get you. That's fine. Just hang on just a minute. Okay. Next speaker, Debbie Holliday. Please come up. Give us your name and address.
I'm Debbie Holliday. I live at 1914 Eden Avenue. I'm the lady that owns the livestock in that pasture. In the aerial view, the actual photograph, you can see a little square in the middle of that pasture. That is a makeshift barn that we have constructed for the horse. My question is Chesapeake going to relocate this structure, or are they going to need to tear it down? Because we do have money invested in this structure, we need to find out what to do.
Is it on your property, or is it on?
It's on the
Baker
actual
property?
drill site.
Oh, okay. It's on the
We
Baker
are-
property.
It's your barn on Mr. Baker's property.
Right. We have arrangement with Mr. Baker to maintain the property in exchange for keeping a horse on that property. The ducks are also mine. I do have baby ducks on that pond, and I am concerned about relocating them.
I would suggest that you take that up with
Right.
Mr. Baker.
My next question too is, will they, I guess obviously they will be covering up the pond, and the pond will not exist any longer. when
I don't
it's-
know that. I mean,
Do they have the answer
Kevin,
tonight?
Heather-
Kevin, do you know if there's going to be a pond? I'd
Very close.
yeah, and the chances of ducks, thriving in that atmosphere, I'd say are
Right.
not likely.
Right.
Not likely to thrive. I don't think they'd
Well,
be
my
comfortable in
main-
that place.
I was wondering though if they're going to put the pond back once they're done and move out of there. Because we have a lot of wild ducks that come in and out.
Yeah.
The pond is fully stocked with catfish that we have stocked in there, but
Yeah, all of these things sound like things that
I know,
you
I
need
know.
to,
Give
take
the
up with
property
those guys.
owner,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then, of course, they've already covered the sound barrier walls. And was it to my understanding that they will just be drilling during the day and not round the clock? Or
I think drilling takes place around the clock. Am I correct? But the trucks in and out are during the day.
during the day?
Yeah.
Okay. That's all I
Is
have
that
to
okay?
say.
All right. Thanks, Debbie. Okay, that's all the sign-up sheets I have. The gentleman standing, we'll give him a little relief here. Come on up. Yeah. Just give us your name and address.
My name's Don Foreman. I live at 1920 Eden. Can we see where 1920 on that map is? I can't see it from here. I live right next door to the woman that spoke before. I live to the south.
So you're the white lot there,
Right.
lot 22.
That would be number 20.
Yeah. I have not signed a waiver, and I've been contacted, and I haven't signed a waiver. I'm not trying to stop this, but what I am trying to do is get some compensation. It's going to be directly in my backyard, and it will be probably 200 feet of me. It'll be right on me, and I'll work something out with them, but I have not. I was given the opportunity to sign the waiver, and I have not. And they will be within my range.
So, let me ask you, they're right there. If you sent somebody a waiver to sign and they didn't sign it, does that mean you need it? Is that?
It's up to you.
If it's less than within 200 feet.
I can address that.
Okay, David, if you'll clarify that. Is
Wayne-
that was one of the points that Wayne was making? Okay.
Exactly what Wayne had said. If
Okay.
it's less than 300 foot, then it has to be a vote of a supermajority for the council to pass, but the council does not have to receive waivers on that.
Okay.
But it would have to be a
if it's
supermajority vote.
within 200 feet, we have to
If
have
it's
a waiver.
less than 300 feet, but no more than 200 feet, it would have to be a supermajority vote.
But if it's less than 200 feet, it has to have a waiver.
Then I don't think
Is that
it would meet the
correct?
criteria of the
But
ordinance.
in between 2 and 300 feet, you've attempted to get waivers, but it's up to the council to decide whether or not, in
That is
view
correct.
of the fact that we don't have all of those waivers in hand, then the council can act and make the decision for or against based on that effort. Okay. Does that make sense to you?
Well, I'm not sure that I'm within 200 or 300 feet. I'm directly in line with the horse barn.
Yeah.
My back fence, and my house sits back off the road to the back.
Well, I don't know. I mean, obviously, we couldn't argue with that. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
I guess you could get a third party or somebody to measure it.
Okay.
I don't know.
In looking at Exhibit X, it appears that a waiver should have been obtained, or at least attempted. Should that have been shaded in as green? Lot 20? Exhibit X. Because you've got the 3 affected properties shaded in green as, well, these are the properties within 200 feet. Within 200 feet.
We're required to obtain the waivers on.
Okay.
I'm not exactly sure of where the wells are setting, adjacent to my property. But if they're in line with the horse barn, they're as close as they can get.
Now, Wayne, maybe I think I'm confused on something now. If it's less than 300 feet and we don't have a waiver from them according to our ordinance, then the council has to approve this by a supermajority.
No,
No.
just has to approve it.
Just has to approve it by a simple majority.
That's correct.
Okay.
The council
So my-
has
so
the
my
discretion.
memo is correct.
Yeah, the council has the discretion to approve a distance of less than 300 feet. Your ordinance says that no permit may be issued within 300 feet of an occupied structure unless the council approves it.
Approves it.
And then the ordinance goes one step further and says you may not approve a drill permit within 200 feet of an occupied structure unless the residents consent and it's a supermajority vote.
Okay, all right.
Okay?
All right.
So what we have issue here is not any residents within 200 feet
It's 300.
that have not signed a waiver. We've got that covered. Well, what's at issue is residents within 300 feet that you don't have a waiver for. Okay, all right.
And you're not
right,
required to have
right,
one.
and you're not required to necessarily. That's up to the council.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Mayor, one more clarification. It may be that this property owner or another property owner might be within 200 feet of a different well site, but on this particular application, Chesapeake is telling us they've done the measurements, and there were 3 that were within 200 feet, and they have waivers from them.
Okay. Let me go ahead and ask this question. Have you measured from all the potential well sites on this Exhibit X, or is that from just this one?
Just this one.
It's from all locations.
All potential well sites. Okay. All right. So we wouldn't have to necessarily have this question come up again necessarily. Okay.
Okay.
Does that?
Yeah.
I mean, it probably doesn't satisfy you, but I mean, you
Well,
understand it's got to.
I wasn't trying to stop
Yeah.
it.
Right. Okay.
That wasn't what I was trying to do. You know,
Gotcha.
I
Understand.
can use 15 wells behind me too.
Yeah.
So you
Right.
know, but
Okay.
But you know, I just they're going to be in my backyard.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
You know, I'm be waving at them.
Absolutely.
You know.
I understand.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
We'll let go.
Ms. Reese.
Thank you. In regards to this Exhibit X, the innermost circle is that going up against property lines, or is that physically where a structure is? Because I'm hearing both, and I'm wanting to make sure I'm understanding that it's either a property line and/or a structure, or, so it is property line.
Yeah,
So-
that's what it looks like. I mean, on my drawing,
I
it
mean,
looks
that's
like,
what I'm
yeah, it
thinking,
looks like
but-
it's coming up against the back of most of those folks
But
to the west. It's coming against the back of their lot line. Now, the 300-foot one is a lot closer to the potential structures there. But, you know, I'm just taking it on faith here that folks have done their homework.
Well,
and
I
they
was
could-
just listening to what this gentleman was saying, that it looked like it was going right through where
The
his
three,
house was.
the 300-foot
And I'm-
line does go through his house.
Okay.
But as Wayne explained, that the requirement of the waiver is at 200 feet, not at 300 feet. So my cover memo is incorrect in that I state 300 feet and as being what's needed for the waiver. They need to cut their comments.
Miss-
They need to, the comments out there. need to-
Folks, if we could, let's keep the murmuring down. If you don't mind, please whisper so we can hear up here. Ms. Branson, do you have a question?
I do. Kevin, do you have Exhibit J on here? Because Exhibit J shows the barn, it shows the pond, and it shows where the wellhead is going to be. Do you have that on your PowerPoint? Because we have the benefit of seeing it up here, but I think it would help those in the audience see where the barn and the pond is compared to the wellhead.
No, that's not in his
Okay, well-
presentation.
Based, not being a topographic person, but if you're directly across from the barn, the wellhead is north of there. It's north of the pond, and it's about a third of the, let's see, what does that yellow line show? Those are structures. So it would be about a third of the way down from, let's see, I'm trying to see if I can see a number up there. As a matter of fact, those two arrows that go into a point right there at the, maybe, can I go down there, Bill? Sure. Show them where the, okay. So
Yes.
this looks like where the wellhead is going to be. This is approximate, y'all. Okay, it looks like the pond is right here, and it looks like the barn is right here. Is that about, this is 20 right here. So it looks like the barn is right here, the pond is right here, and the wellhead is over there. Okay. Does that help? Yes, it does. Okay.
Sorry, we didn't have a better thing to show you. All right. Sir, did you want to come up and, yeah, please. Just giving you name and address.
My name is Robin Pfeiffer. I live at 2120 Oak Ridge. I don't have an issue with the well site or anything, but I think to clear this up, I think what the people in these houses, the issue with them is that they're going to be direly impacted by this, and they feel that they deserve some more compensation than just the lease payments like the rest of us are getting. I think that's their issue with this.
Oh, I think that's pretty accurate.
Yeah, it's very,
Yeah.
that's the major thing that, and if the council feels that that's not an issue, then y'all can vote to approve that. If you
Yeah.
feel that that's a major issue, then I hate to say it, but you'll have to hold this off until they can.
Well, you know, this is just my immediate
that's-
knee-jerk response is that's what we should cover in the ordinance, and maybe
Well,
that's
yeah.
something that you know, we could
But it still gives y'all the
contemplate.
discretion
Yeah, right.
to decide whether their issue is of that much importance, or decide that it's as much importance for the whole area to go ahead and approve it.
Sure.
Now, I had one other thing that I'm a truck driver, and as far as, and I bring trucks in down there, when you come up Haltom Road and turn right onto Birdville, that's an
pretty tight
extreme
corner,
turn
yeah.
right there. Now, the only other thing is, I mean, I know there's only one other major access is to come down the access road from Carson and then down Birdville. But I'm sure y'all have considered that, and because every time one of these
Or
trucks
Robbie
comes
could
up,
clear out his warehouse there and let him drive through there.
every time one of these trucks comes up Haltom and goes to make that turn, it's going to disrupt that traffic.
Oh, yeah.
For that period of the day. That's
Yeah.
just another thing to be considered.
Right. Okay. Thank you, sir. Okay. Yes, ma'am. You want to come on?
My name is Tony Vanoy. I live at 5204 Lower Birdville. I'm number 27. My question is pertaining to the traffic. When your trucks come in, do they, like, make a line? And if they do, am I going to be able to get out of my driveway?
Right.
Well,
Kevin, you wanna tackle that? I mean,
I worked in construction, so I know that you can get lots of trucks in a line.
it did sound like there was gonna be a parade coming in there.
I have a
Yeah.
little car, I just need a little space, and I'm good, but that's my only concern. And how
Kevin?
long is those lines last?
Yeah, Kevin, you may want to deal with this instead of Diane.
What did you just say, Tom?
Again, we have a total of about 40 to 50 trucks over a 2-day period that brings the rig in. And what we'll do at that time is, when I send out notifications along that truck route all the way up, looks like it'll be basically Haltom Road over to Lower Birdville Road. We'll put flyers on the doors and giving you all notice of when we're going to be there. And at that time, my number will be on there, and also our drilling superintendent will be there, which he is on site. And if you have any problems whatsoever, you call me, you call him, and we'll get it taken care of immediately. Just a reassurance, we've drilled over 1,100 wells in the Barnett Shale. We go in some really tight places and some really open places. And so, our crews are second to none, and we get in and out. And like one of the council members stated, we do have a road repair agreement. If we were to run over a curb or bust up a road, we're liable for that, and we fix it.
Kevin, I have a question. I noticed the one on 28th Street had police escort. It was closing off streets at intersections and that sort of thing. When these trucks are going in and out of their neighborhood, are you all going to be hiring police officers to monitor that traffic? I don't know if that's standard or if that's just because it was such a
It's not
big
standard. A lot of it depends on the location of where we're going. As it has been and brought up, some of those trucks are big and they're a little cumbersome at times in getting in and out of locations. I can talk to our operations department and possibly, depending on the dates, there's a few. We do have a little wiggle room here what we can do. However, our operations department would have to sign off on it, and I know that we could probably work with the city to get it done.
I'm thinking what she's thinking is, can she get out of her driveway if she needs to go somewhere or
Yeah.
something like that? And
Yeah, that I think that's a legitimate concern, and Kevin, Kevin, I would certainly encourage you to take a look at the timing and the possibility of a detour, because I agree with the gentleman a while ago about that turn. When those trucks come in and they're trying to make a right-hand turn with a long truck from Haltom Road onto Lower Birdville, they're gonna have to take up pretty much all of Haltom Road to swing around and get an angle where they can.
And will you be moving them in and out on the weekends like you did?
It
I
depends.
don't know. It's just a thought.
I don't know what day of the week that falls on.
Well, I invite you to go drive that route so that you can see if you haven't already.
I've driven it many times. Our permitting people go out there. We take pictures. We spend a lot of time investigating the best route, working with the surface owner, trying to figure. We actually had a different route initially and realized that wasn't going to work. It was the one we chose and worked with the city was the least intrusive of all the options at the time. And it's not 25, 30 trucks lined up down the street. What we do is when we move a rig from one location to the next, they bring, whatever parts, and it's just ongoing. It's not 50 trucks lined up down the street.
It's not a convoy.
No.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir. That helps clarify. Okay. Go ahead. Come on back up.
I just wanted to comment on the last gentleman that was
Go
up
ahead and
here.
get up to the mic there, huh?
I'm sorry.
Please.
The last gentleman that was up here, since we signed our lease, there's been lots of other people in other areas in the county that have signed leases, and they have exceeded way more than what we got for our property. I feel
Understand.
that we were like the stepchildren, And I really think that that needs to be relooked at, because we got totally ripped off.
Okay. Well, I don't disagree that you got possibly less money, especially if you signed early. However, I think it'd be hard to support the idea that you got ripped off because you signed voluntarily. And I tell you, the people that signed later were just lucky. It's just luck. It's just when you knew what you knew and when you knew it, and that's all it is. It's not that people aren't any smarter. They just got luckier. But I understand what you're saying. I would feel the same way. Mr. Clark, you had a comment.
David, did we look at the service road and the access to Lower Birdville and that diagonal turn? Is there something wrong with that? That's a much easier turn than the 90-degree off of Haltom Road, I would think.
Any route we take, there's going to be difficulties making left or right turns. If you come from the other direction, making a left turn onto the property will still be difficult.
Okay, I just want to know that we looked at it.
Any route we tackle will be very difficult to make those right and or left turns.
Oh.
We feel comfortable with this particular route.
Okay, thanks, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, folks, I'm going to remind you again. Please whisper when you're talking to each other, because we can't hear up here if there's a lot of talking going on out there. We can't hear what's happening here. Okay, the public hearing is still open. Yes, sir. Come on up.
Wayne Cunningham, 5216 Lower Birdville. I think we're lot 30. I'm not for sure. There's not a house showing on it, but I know I've got some property
You're
there.
pretty sure it's there, huh?
Anyway, my question is, he said he was going south. Does that mean no one on Lower Birdville will start drawing royalty checks because of this well? Even though I'm I'm less than 300 feet of your property.
That's correct.
So this doesn't mean anything to us.
Not on the first well.
Even though I've got 30 trucks a day running right beside my house.
Yes, sir.
That vacant lot is where you're going to put the roads.
Yes.
If you drive my renters out, are you going to compensate me? Better get a good royalty check on all the rest of the property. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Kenneth Parrish, and I live close to Little Fossil Park. But the question is for my mother. She lives, which is north of where this is going to be. Do we know at where or when the other drill sites will be located? If we do, will there be other meetings concerning this too also?
You mean other
drill sites?
Well, there's just one drill site, but there's potential 16 wells. You mean another well being drilled?
Yeah, will there be other wells drilled sites?
Well, do you know when you're going to go north or some other direction for a second or third, or have you got any tentative plans?
No, we don't have any plans on our drill schedule at this time. As I believe I mentioned that we do have we're trying to amend some of those wells and who the lessors are within those units. And the reason we probably didn't go to the north is, and I'd have to look at it a little closer to be honest, is that generally we might have a holdout or we have a lease expiration that we have to satisfy.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, you bet. Over here we had somebody want to come up and speak. He got you. Okay, all right. Appreciate that. Okay. And, okay. Just give us your name and address, please.
Darlena Music, 2100 Eden Avenue. Just north. Again, it's partly part of what was just being said. How often are they going to be drilling, or how big is this spot of land that they have to drill the different wells in?
Well, it's
Is it just this little piece of property right here that we're talking about? Is this the only place that they have access to drill on?
That's all we're talking about tonight, yes. This is the
Tonight.
drill site, and this is the first of possibly as many as 16.
In this one little piece of circle here, and this little octangular thing in the middle.
Well, it's rectangle, yeah.
Okay.
No.
It's oval. Okay. So we're talking in this one particular general area right there. So there's possible 16. So when they're saying go north, they will let us know when these possibly are coming up.
Right, that'll have to have a public hearing for that.
And will they all go in this general path of travel and everything that they're explaining today for these possible, because in this general area? Okay.
Mayor, could we have
Yes.
Kevin or someone explain, when I think, and I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but I think people visualize a potential 16 different
Trees, Christmas trees?
Christmas trees and that sort of thing. And it's my understanding you can run multiple drilling sites out of one, cap off one wellhead that has multiple pipelines and goes multiple directions. Is that right?
No.
No, I'm not right. Okay, well,
For each well that we drill, we have to it has to have its own wellhead. And so when we say we can drill up to 16 wells, we can house 16 wells here. That means we'll be doing 16 different wells into the ground, drilling 6,000 to 7,000 feet down in the ground and turning horizontally. And when we say we're drilling to the north or south or east or west, what we're ultimately doing is we're still drilling 6,000 or 7,000 feet down. And then at that point, we will turn the drill bit north within the Barnett Shale, or we'll turn it into the south or southeast or northwest. And so that's how we're able to get different directions going on.
so they will have potentially 16 different little 8-foot tall areas with trees planted around them?
It'll be a masonry wall with landscaping around it, but they're 4 feet tall wellheads, or Christmas trees.
Right, but I mean, I'm talking about the actual, it's on one of your slides. You showed us a picture of what it
I
looks
think
like.
she's
with
asking,
the
are you going to put a structure around, one
and every
structure
one?
around all 16 or 16 different walls
Thank you,
and
Bill.
structures?
Yes, that's what I'm asking.
This'll encompass the pad site, the drill
The
site
entire-
boundary.
the entire thing.
Yes, all of our operations will be behind like this gated fence here.
So will we have 16 of those? Could we have 16 of those? Or
Just
just
one.
one?
One masonry wall
That's-
and landscaping around the boundary of the pad site.
And for the council's, the last exhibit in your council packet is their landscape plan. And
Yes,
as
and
you
it-
see there, it encompasses not the entire lot, but the vast majority of it, where you've got the crepe myrtles around it and the wall and whatnot.
Mr.
Well,
Sutton?
in the
Oh, I'm
murmurings
sorry.
out here, I was picking up that some people were envisioning 16 different structures sitting on that lot.
Okay.
So that's right. Thank you, Bill. You
Thank-
finally understood me and said what I was meaning to say.
Finally, after all these years. Mr. Sutton?
Thanks. I just want to kind of explore the criteria for why you choose when to do a well, and I imagine it's because of the geologist and also because of the leaseholders and things like that. Is that all the criteria that you use to select when you decide to drill a well on a site? Or are there other factors?
Well, there's other factors. Mostly is we have to have a surface use agreement with a landowner, or we have to purchase a property.
Or the affected landowners for where you want to drill, right?
Right, and we take in consideration the proximity to those homes. This is an exception to the general rule that we do, but we feel very confident in our ability to maintain a safe environment and be least intrusive as possible. But in this case, we look at our leasehold and how much leasehold we have in order to drill a well. And then ultimately we have to begin drilling by the end of that lease expiration. And that's generally what drives when we drill
So
what
for those
property.
property owners to the north, the decision they're going to be waiting for is whenever you have all the leases in that area and your geologists say, this is a good thing, you ought to drill here.
And we also look at production, and that also drives.
Well, the south well will be kind of a test case for how well the production is in that area?
These wells are all pretty good anyway.
Okay.
But, it's just, we do like drilling one well at least, and then looking at it, analyzing it, and then moving
So
forward.
it's a sequential process. You're not doing things in
We might come
tandem.
back. We might come back eventually and do like 2H and 3H permit, and maybe drill a couple more, and so on and so forth.
Okay.
But just
Typically, how have you done wells in other areas where you have multiple well heads in a single pad site?
we've done some that we've drilled 3 in a row. And we've had some. I believe we've done 4 in a row, but more cases than not, we will drill one and leave the site and come back and drill another one, and then maybe 2, and then leave again. But we wouldn't drill them all at once.
Is there a number that any of the property owners to the north could call and ask what's the status of whether you're going to be drilling to the north or not?
Absolutely. You guys can post this on your website, or people can write it down here, or you all can have it for your records. I believe you all have my contact information.
Okay.
People are more than welcome to email me or call me anytime.
Okay.
Well, for those of you who are at television and you've got your pencil and paper, that number is 817-870-5611.
And that's Heather's number, by the way. I'm just kidding.
But it's got your name up there, Kevin.
Just ask for Heather. She'll
Funny
take
how
care
that
of it.
And
Somehow.
Right.
And Jim,
Funny
the
how
way
that happens.
the way Kevin described it is that's kind of what happened in the north part of town, because I think there's 4 wells up there on one site, and that's what happened. They went in, did one, left, came back, did some more. So it's kind of a onesie.
If people haven't heard that that's how the way it goes, I wanted them to be able to hear that.
Well, Kevin, just to allay some anxiety here and timing, what is the possibility, if any? Well, I've got 2 questions. First, could you drill 16 wells, the maximum on this pad site, 16 wells, and miss somebody?
Sure. I mean, I can't be certain that we'll get everyone in the unit. Whether there may be people that haven't signed a lease and don't want to sign a lease that might be in the way of having contiguous acreage.
Well, I mean, for instance, what if, just like the gentleman asked, he said, you're going south and I'm east, but I'm close.
Right.
How do you know? I mean, is it in your application and this public information that says these are the sites that will be affected by this?
What we do is we have to submit all of our lessors to the Railroad Commission when we apply for their permit, and it literally lists all of those lessors within that unit. And typically, what we're trying to do in this case, I know we're trying to expand the size of this unit on this first well. We're having to do it very quickly, but ultimately we have a set of who our lessors are going to be, which is required by the Railroad Commission.
And that'll be the people that actually get the royalties?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Ms. Branson?
Thank you. Before you get away, Kevin, and y'all may not realize it, but sitting up here, we hear most everything that's said out there, like you were talking to us face to face. I also heard security mentioned. So our ordinance has certain requirements in it that while they're drilling, you have someone on site.
We have all of our, we have to maintain our people on site, our engineers or whomever that may be,
So there's
our
security
employees.
while the drilling's going on to keep inquiring minds from just experimenting around the equipment. And then after you've completed the drilling and the wall's up and the gates there, it's kept locked, and the wall is 8 feet tall, I believe.
Yeah, it's generally, we'll put it's a knockbox lock, and the people with keys are the gas inspector, the fire department, and our operations department.
Okay, so I just wanted those that had any questions about security and people wanting to see, or youngsters wanting to see what's going on, that there's provisions in place to protect them physically
Sure.
from
And
being
when I
around this equipment.
When I drove into the Willis site just a couple weeks ago, looking at it, making sure the noise, the sound levels, and I wanted to see it and hear it for myself. Right when I pulled onto the lot, the people came out, and so it's just not everybody can just walk in there and do what they want to do.
So that's a good thing. Thank you for explaining that.
Mr. Sutton?
Yeah, Kevin, a question about the pipeline that is going to connect to this wellhead. We had talked earlier, I think in pre-council, about it being at least 4 foot below the surface, but that's going to go under 121. And I was wondering, the TxDOT is not going to allow you to put that 4 foot under the 121. So what is the depth for that?
That'll be determined by our pipeline company, Texas Midstream Gas Services. They will submit a permit. Anytime we go underneath a state highway or federal highway, we have to submit a permit to the state and show them significant depth of what depth we're going to bore. That wouldn't be a normal traditional open trench, obviously.
Okay.
We actually have to bore underneath the highway.
Right, right.
And as well as any street crossings, we wouldn't open trench street crossings either. We would submit permits to the city and then bore underneath city streets.
Okay.
So there's no disruption of the roads.
Thanks.
Sir, you want to come on up and just give us your name and address, please?
My name is David Velez. I live in 1919 Eden Avenue. I am very much concerned about this project that the gas company is pursuing. But one of the things that really I am concerned is safety. And I would like to ask the gentleman here, what are the possibilities of an explosion or something that it will cost our life or our properties or what are those possibilities? Because it has happened before. How safe is the project that you are proposing? Because every one of us will be affected if there is an explosion, and I am very much concerned about this.
Well, I think the industry takes this very seriously. I mean, when you're within a few hundred feet of people's yards, we are regulated by the state and by the city ordinances. And I think, the last thing we want to do is have an incident with all the wells that we've drilled. We've had a couple minor incidences, but no, evacuations or anything like that. I know there has been some instances within the industry. No innocent bystanders have been hurt in the Barnett Shale with any incidents at a site. They've all been employees of certain companies, whether those are preventable accidents or not. No bystander has been injured. And so this is it's a low pressure formation. Blowouts are very rare, and we do have wellhead blowout preventers on the wellheads while we're drilling, and so we put a lot of things in place to make sure that doesn't happen. And so we're very diligent on maintaining that safety record in what we're doing here.
Kevin,
I can't and like anything, I can't assure. I mean, as far as
sure,
people ask how dangerous it is. I mean, we do get in our cars, we do go on our daily life, and accidents do happen, but we can't ever guarantee anything.
It's always a good idea to talk about the worst case scenarios where there is the unfortunate incident there where we have a wellhead explosion. Can you tell us in past such incidents what has been the range of damage and does the damage extend outward mostly or upward mostly? How does that?
Well, Chesapeake hadn't had in the Barnett Shale one of those incidents, so I wouldn't.
Well, I mean, there have been incidents of wellheads exploding. I mean, they do that. I mean, there's gas and it's flammable, and accidents can and do happen. And certainly we don't expect one, but I think that's a fair question. What?
Well, I couldn't guesstimate or speculate on what happened to other energy companies or what happened. I mean, I could technologically, look into it.
I just thought there was some relationship between the expected damage from a blowout and the fact that we've got several hundred feet, 200 feet, 100 feet. I mean, if they were perfectly safe, you could sleep on them, but we don't do that. We say it has to be minimum of 200 feet. Does that have any meaning whatsoever?
Well, I will say one thing about.
Because I was on the committee that wrote the rules, and that's what we were led to believe. So I'm just trying to confirm that, and I'm not hearing it.
Well, even in like Los Angeles, they allow drilling up to 100 feet, and so I mean it is depending on the formations and everything. There's different variables added on, but I know Heather can add a couple extra comments here.
I think originally the 200 feet was derived from building code setbacks. Generally, from a fire code perspective, you don't want to have any buildings closer than 200 feet. In regard to the Barnett Shale, the gas in general is actually, it's not explosive. Actually, you need to fracture that formation in order for it to even flow. So while you're actually drilling, the chances are very, very small that you're going to have any explosion or anything like that. And as Kevin mentioned, there is a blowout preventer that is set on that wellhead as we're drilling, and that actually reduces any pressure or anything that may happen. And then again, as you fracture it, the gas flows, and then the safety precautions that we put on during the production phase, we have automatic shut-in valves. So if the pressure rises and it's too high, then the wellhead automatically shuts in and the gas production ceases. So, and that's factored remotely and automatically. So hopefully that helps a little bit.
Okay,
Tom?
Mr. Sutton?
Oh, sorry. Well, I was just going to ask Tom, didn't Jerry McIntyre look at the fire? As I remember, he was greatly involved in the initial aspects of this whole thing, and he was instrumental in choosing the type of surrounding around the wellhead and certain requirements.
Yeah, that's right. And even to add to that, I think in recent past, even the Railroad Commission and whatnot have, because of safety measures that have advances that have taken place in your industry, some of those requirements that may have been in place, maybe even just a couple of years ago, have been reduced or altered to where you could either put more wells there, or you could put them closer to the structures, to buildings, residences, or whatnot. So the industry is constantly striving for that. But to answer your question, yes, Diane, he did do that.
Mr. Sutton?
Thanks. I had asked the city manager for a copy of the ordinance. It's a pretty big document, and I wanted to read through it. And I was satisfied with what I read in terms of the technology. Well technology is amazing how it's progressed in the last 20 years.
It was the permit application.
Permit
not the
application,
Not
yeah.
the ordinance, but the permit application.
Or permit application, that's exactly right. Anyways, I'm impressed with the technology from an engineering standpoint of what's been there. Another thing I noticed that's not being brought out is that you do have insurance policies in the event of a disaster that would pay, and I think that's part of what you're wanting to address, is what's going to be compensated in terms of our residences, our homes, or things like that in case of some kind of disaster like that. And I read through the permit application, and that you do have liability insurance policies that you're required. Do you want to speak to those, Heather?
Well, I can't speak to the actual specifics that's on file with the city, but we do have a very large amount that's on file with the city, and if anything happens, then we will use that insurance policy to help fix whatever problems may arise.
Sir, I don't know if that's answered all your questions, but does that get the what you were asking?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. All right, yes.
My name is Jahara Rios, and we live on 1924 Haltom Road. I mean, we are not on that paper, on the green color, but we have some questions. That construction is going to affect the taxes that we pay every year? I mean, our property is going to go up or down with this, or it's not going to affect at all?
I don't know, Tom. I can't imagine it would have much effect one way or the other. I'm not a market.
It will have an effect on your property taxes.
We have to pay more.
Not the eye popping that you just gave me there. It's not going to be anything like that. There are mineral values that the appraisal district assesses to these things, and how they do that, I don't know. They assess mineral values to the properties, and those are